Okay. All right. Hello and welcome to Girls Night Live. I'm your host, Cindy Connors, and we are so glad you're here. Tonight is going to be a really fun conversation. So we're going to save the last 10 or 15 minutes for your questions or comments. And so just throw them in the chat box and we'll get to as many as possible. So tonight we are talking with award-winning actress, writer, and comedian, Jennifer Robertson. Jennifer has had a long and varied career, but is probably best known for her starring role as Jocelyn Schitt in the highly acclaimed 9-time Emmy Award-winning series Schitt's Creek. In 2020, Jennifer was also cast in the Netflix drama Ginny in Georgia. She stars as Ellen Baker, and the series has attracted more than 52 million subscribers. Wow. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
You know, you have had such a varied career over the last 20 plus years, but it's this quirky show that let the whole world see how talented you are. Believe it or not, there might be some people that don't know about the show. Can you describe it for us?
Schitt's Creek is a show about a very wealthy family that loses everything and ends up being forced to move to a small town that they purchased as a joke for their son's birthday. And they have to move to the motel and they become immersed in the town and friends with the town folk. And what Dan and all the writers and Eugene created over the 6 years was a beautiful arc of sort of watching people change and watching people grow. And it was such a fun thing to be a part of.
And what an amazing cast.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the superstars of comedy, right?
The first day on set, my very first day on set was a scene with Catherine and Eugene. And I've never been more nervous in my whole life, not because of them. They were wonderful and sweet and kind, but I was coming over with a tuna casserole, I think. And I just remember smelling tuna and being nauseous. I'm like, oh my God, it's Eugene and Catherine, and just panic because they are legends.
Well, and I read that she's like your comedy idol, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So a little bit of pressure. How about you carry tuna and then just do this?
I also read that she just one day showed up. She showed up as Moira with that accent. Like Dan wasn't prepared for that at all.
I think Catherine does I know Catherine does a great deal of work on her characters. And I think Dan and Eugene gave her space to create that. And we've had little discussions over the years about her characters, and the character's voice is very, very important to her. And yes, I think she did surprise them one day with, this is how I think this character is going to.
Well, let's go through a little bit of the backstory. So Dan created it.
Yes.
Correct. And then so his dad, Eugene, teamed up with him to get it into development, right? That's how that worked?
They made what's called a sizzle reel. So they shot like I think it was 15 minutes as like a sales tool to sort of take it around to different places. Yeah. Yeah.
They had a really hard time. I read that it was turned down by HBO, Showtime, and the name was a problem. Everyone wanted to change the name.
Everyone wanted to change the name, and then no one wanted to change the name once it's sort of settled in with everyone. But yeah, for the longest time on American television, I'm sure you saw, they actually had to show the word whenever anyone said Schitt's Creek. They had to show Schitt's Creek on screen so people understood it wasn't the other version of that word, which is a real last name. That's a real last name. There are people with that last name in the world. So
yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that Dan and Eugene actually had to take the phone book to the executives and say, like, this is a real name.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think people don't know how long it really takes to get something developed and on the air. I mean, they probably wrote this 9 or 10 years ago, right?
I don't know if it was in the works for that long, but it does take a very long time to get things off the ground sometimes, and some things are very quick, but so many shows. I mean, Queen's Gambit, I think I read 8 years it took to get Queen's Gambit up and going. I guess the show about chess is a hard sell. but I do know it took some time for sure. And that was already with like incredible names attached. So I think it's an even longer journey when you're just selling it based on an amazing script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Pop TV took a chance. And then I'm sure the other networks, when they saw it take off, were like, oh man, this is.
Well, it went to CBC is our primary network in Canada. So CBC picked it up, and then the second window became Pop. So it was sort of primarily CBC, and then Pop came on board also as the American second window. But our primary window was CBC here in Canada.
So when all this was happening, did you think that this was going to be a hit?
You never know. People ask that, and I always just say, you honestly don't know. You know at the time that you're on something that's wonderful, and you can feel that energy on set, and you can see the performances, obviously, which are so incredibly funny. But there's kind of that magical thing of timing, and that you don't control. So you don't know necessarily that something's going to take off or not, because there are some wonderful shows that only get one season, and so you don't know. But I knew right away, obviously it was really great.
Yeah. What was your audition like?
My audition was in Los Angeles. I was living in LA at the time. Many people know that both Annie and I were kind of like not doing so great at the time, so I was contemplating getting a day job and, doing the LA thing, which was a bit difficult because I'd left Canada and got a green card and come up to the States just to have a go at it. And things were, a little tight. And I went out for it, but they gave us lots of time. This was the beautiful thing about it, is lots of auditions that actors get. You get a script the night before. But I remember with this, they gave us at least, I got it a week in advance. So I had lots of time to really work on it. And obviously I knew the people that were attached, and I worked so hard on it, as I'm sure every actress in my category did to try to get that role. So I wore a leopard print dress and had the audition, and then waited. It took a while. I think I didn't find out for like 6 or 7 weeks. So in my mind, I was like, it's gone. Don't think about it anymore. Just move on. And then the phone rang.
So is this like a before and after role for you?
Before and after. What's a
before and after moment in your life? It's like the show just blew up.
It certainly shifted things. I was a working actor up until this point. I was, making a living just doing acting, but it certainly changed a lot. It changed a lot of things for a lot of people on the cast. So yeah, it definitely changed. You're still the same person. You just have some nice opportunities that come your way once you're on something that gets eyes like that on it. So it's nice.
Well, let's really talk about the show. I want to hear about your relationship with Chris Elliott.
Yes.
As Jocelyn.
Yes. Jocelyn and Roland. I mean, we did joke. I think like season 1, somewhere in there, we joked in the luau episode. It was like a night shoot, and everybody's chatting away. And we joked that my last name was Brown, and then I decided not to hyphenate for obvious reasons. But they're just a solid couple. And I think there's nothing, I watched, actually, when I got the role, I actually watched video footage of Jackie Onassis giving tours of the White House, because especially in that first episode or second episode, when the Roses come to our house for that first dinner, I thought it was really important to relay to people that maybe this isn't what you would think is the fanciest house, but to her, it's the White House. Her husband is the mayor. She has tremendous amounts of pride. She's made her finest cheese ball. And that was always important to Dan and Eugene throughout the process, is that these were small town people, but we didn't want to make them characters and make them kind of goofy goofy, dumb, small town people. There are lots of amazing people that live in small towns. And I think that was really important to us, that we played them that way and didn't make them seem inferior somehow to the Rose family. You
And
know?
that's what's so beautiful about actually the whole show, right?
Yeah.
You know, Dan and Patrick, it's like they're just, you know, love is love. There was no issue that they're a gay couple. Who cared?
Yeah.
And
And that was an intentional choice with Dan as well. He was like, I don't want to play that people in this town are homophobic. There's enough of that out there. And yes, it has to be addressed sometimes, but this is not where I want this. I want to make this world a place where everybody is themselves and it is free of those prejudices. Yeah.
So what is it like working with Chris Elliott though? What those, he's just trying to make you laugh all the time. He seems like such a troublemaker.
He is. He's a rascal. And he's always trying to make people laugh. He's mostly trying to make Eugene laugh. Nobody makes Eugene laugh like Chris. It's phenomenal to watch when you're doing scenes with them. Eugene just cracks up constantly. He's, you know, he does want to make people laugh. He's also just a really, like, he can be quiet. He can be like a very chill. He is not the characters that he plays in movies and TV. He was very supportive of me from the day I arrived, which I was very appreciative of. And yeah, but everybody's very funny, and watching Catherine sing is a challenge. Anybody when she's jazz scatting to not just start laughing and ruin the take. You're like, I can't ruin the take. I got to keep it together. Well, she's got that shaky egg doing her thing.
What did you learn from working with her?
I learned so much from working with her. She's incredibly prepared. Everything is well thought out. And she's fun. She's done so much work by the time she gets to set that she's very relaxed, because it's like she's the kid who's done her homework assignment and is ready to give the presentation with the PowerPoint, and she's ready to go. And so she just can relax and enjoy her time on set. And everybody was so professional on that set. And also very low key. It was not like a Hollywood set. It just wasn't. It was everybody coming to work, everybody doing their best work. And it was a lovely place to be.
Is there a moment in the past 6 years of Schitt's Creek that like just will stay with you forever?
There are lots of those. I mean, the last day of shooting was quite something and quite special, and then also funny. It was kind of like, you know, when you're planning a big event and there's things mostly go as planned, but it was like the last shot ever of the series and everyone was there and we needed rain to happen. So we had a rain machine, but we were losing light. And so the bugs were coming because we were shooting in the country, and someone sprayed off in the tent that we were shooting in, and we were choking on off, and then everyone's crying because it's the last shot. Like, it was a whole
a shit show.
It felt like a family, a shit show, an SCHITT show, but also that it was so moving and it felt right. It felt right that we did this funny comedy, and even in this like moment where we're all crying, we're all like, I keep tasting off. Does anyone else taste? I keep tasting the bug repellent. So that was quite a day. It was quite a day. Yeah.
So for Jocelyn, how much of it is the writers and how much did you bring to the role? Were you able to shift things the way you thought Jocelyn should be?
There wasn't a lot of shifting. The writers were very good. I think a lot of people feel like because of Catherine and Eugene that there's a lot of improv. There's very little improv. And then Dan just sort of entrusted us all to kind of be these characters. I think he cast very carefully, and there weren't any real changes when we all showed up. Mm-hmm. I think they picked everybody in casting and they knew what everybody was bringing, and we didn't improvise a lot. every now and then you change like a the to a whatever, but really fundamentally, most of the things that are there, it's all the creators, all the writers, showrunners, all those people. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of trust and respect among everybody.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Trusting everybody to do their job,
Mhm.
which is hard to do in showbiz, people, especially when it's your project. But Dan really gave everybody the space to be those characters, which was great. And
Mhm.
it was all very organized and very prepared. And those rewrites have been done and those scripts. I mean, Dan had, as he will say, no life for 6 years. Because even when it was the off season, he was working on it. He was buying, designer sweatshirts on eBay or whatever, just trying to get ready for the next season. So, yeah.
What did you love about your character?
I loved a lot about her. I loved her attitude. I thought she was extremely positive, even with people like Moira when they were being kind of rude. She found a way to sort of stand her ground without losing control,
Mhm.
which I'm still working on. When I get upset about something, my voice gets really high and I can't control it. And so, but I just thought Jocelyn was so good at holding her ground and really observing people and seeing the good in people.
Mhm.
I really loved that about her. That even when Moira was being crazy and I'm talking about a fur coat, she still
Yeah.
was patient with her.
No, I think it's just amazing, honestly. And the wigs. Let's talk about the wigs. Whose idea was that?
I think it was Catherine's idea. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure she thought it would be fun, or maybe, I don't know. It's Catherine or Dan. It's one of the two of them. I'm not sure. But yeah, all the wigs on the wall and all the different names.
And the wigs that Jocelyn wore. I mean, hilarious.
Jocelyn wore. Well, yeah, it was my real hair in season 1.
Wow.
And styling your hair that way it's not easy on blonde hair. You have fair hair and you kind of have to curl it and then kind of flatten iron it. And there were masks, hair masks I do every weekend. It was just kind of fried by the end of the first season. And so we're like, that she's going to a wig. It wasn't, it wasn't supposed to be a wig. It was her real hair, but it was a wig.
So let's back up a little bit. Where did you grow up and how did you get into this crazy business?
I grew up out here on the West Coast in Canada. I was born in Calgary and then we moved to a small island called Salt Spring Island for a little bit. And then I moved here to Vancouver. My father was a comedian, so it's a little bit of the family business. He was on CBC radio here, which is kind of like the BBC in the UK, and he did a show with my stepmom called Double Exposure, and it was a radio show for 11 years. Yeah. So my brother's in construction. He went another way, but and my mom was a kindergarten teacher, ran a Montessori preschool. So that's kind of, I think, where it comes from internally. And then I went to theater school. I always wanted to do comedy. My theater school that I went to was very understanding and just kind of let me be that as opposed to trying to force other things. And they nurtured that in me. And then as soon as I was 18, I was done theater school. I went to Toronto and took all the Second City classes. I just wanted to do comedy. I did stand up. I did sketch. I never got into Second City. I got into the alternate touring company was as high as I got. But I learned so much and that space is, really special. And just started auditioning and doing things. I just always wanted to do comedy, just always.
What is stand-up like?
Terrifying.
Right, that's what I would think.
Terrifying. And I used to do it a lot when I was younger, and I still occasionally dabble, but you can occasionally dabble is the thing, is you have to be out there doing it all the time. And so unless I'm very casually hosting a charity event or something, I just don't do it anymore because you have to be, it's a muscle that has to be worked
Yeah,
constantly.
that's what I'm wondering. Is it good training to do stand-up?
You know, it's a bit like adjusting your line of fear.
Mhm.
So most things are group oriented. So the fear of stand-up is when you get out there, it's all you. So which can feed your ego also. If it goes well, you can go, it's all me. But if it goes badly,
Oh,
it's all you.
oh,
And so I think it humbled me, and I think it was a great exercise. I went and did some stand-up special in London, England, I had no business doing, and bombed in front of like a 2,000 seat theater. And I think at the moment, even in that moment, I was like, I don't think anything will ever be as bad as this moment. And it hasn't been since then. So it was a great learning experience. Isn't that the expression? I don't lose. I either win or learn. And I learned a lot that night.
Oh my God. So a month after you wrapped Schitt's Creek, you went right into Ginny in Georgia, right?
I did. The show was ending and I did that actor panic. I'll never work again. And then Ginny in Georgia happened. It's been so long since we shot the first season. We're going to start the second season later this winter. So it feels like a long time ago, but yeah, I went straight into.
It's really amazing. I mean, I love the depth that they go to, like the social issues, and I love the style. It's so creative. So tell the audience what it's about.
Ginny in Georgia is about a mother and her two kids. Georgia is the mom, Ginny is the daughter, and there's a little sweet boy too. And they are she has a checkered past. She's a rather unconventional mother. I play her best friend. It's hard to describe. There's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of addressing very real issues with teenagers, which I know the young audience really has connected to. But there's mystery and romance. It's got it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. And so tell us about your challenges with your part.
With Ellen?
Yeah.
Ellen, I think Ellen's fantastic. Ellen has twins. She has fraternal twins, and Maxine and Marcus. And, parenting in the modern day, it's not easy. And I guess I'm not giving away in the pilot, a little something starts between my son and Ginny, George's daughter, which we have no idea about. So there's a lot of things the kids are up to behind Ellen's back. It was an interesting, when I got cast in the role, things shifted just before we started shooting. A couple weeks before we started shooting, they cast another Chris. Apparently I only play people who are married to actors named Chris. Chris Kanopic plays my husband. He's profoundly deaf. So they told me about 2 weeks before we started shooting that I was going to be doing sign language. And I don't know sign language. So there was a very big, wonderful, but big learning curve for me. And I had a coach. And it was so interesting because Sarah and Felix, who play my kids, had to do a little bit of signing also. And they picked it up instantly. Like their spongy young brains were great. And I was struggling. It was quite something. So that also raised the new bar of nervousness. I wasn't doing stand-up, but now if there's a scene where I don't have to also sign, that's much more relaxing. So I just keep challenging myself. Yeah.
Having to remember your lines and sign them at the same time.
Yes. And there was a dinner scene in the finale where I sign my lines. I sign what everyone else is saying at the table for my husband. And I translate what he's signing for the table. And I was like, that was like my day. I was like, if I can get through this day, I can do anything. And I made it.
So how is it different than the Schitt's Creek experience?
Well, there's such a large component of younger cast for sure. So, that's different energy for sure. They're all so sparkly and fresh. And it's another set. Every set is its own animal and its own being. I am wonderful friends with Brienne, who plays Georgia, conveniently, my friend on the show. And we talk to each other all the time. So we're very excited to do season 2, just so we can hang out.
Yeah.
And I said that like a real Canadian. I said, hang out. There we go. From my American accent there. So I'm looking forward to going back. And, it's been 2 years since we shot in 2019.
Wow.
I know.
I mean, the young actors are going to look completely different.
I mean, the ones that are playing the teens, those guys will be okay. It'll be interesting to see, how everybody looks. Maybe I should get some Botox before we go back.
Did any of the young actors come to you for advice?
They didn't, but they were really sweet. And they called me things that made me feel really old, and they didn't mean to, but I think they called me like legend, and I was moments away from getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. I was like, I'm still in my 40s. Please stop.
The one I love is ma'am.
Ma'am. Oh yeah. Or when the production assistant asks if you want the regular size sides with your lines, which are this big, or if you need the bigger sides because your eyes so
I'm getting lots of texts here about questions.
Okay.
Was Jocelyn's funny little walk your idea or the writers?
That's my walk. It is a Jocelyn walk. It's not a Jen walk. It is. Jocelyn always just has a little more sparkle to the things she does. So it's the same like when I'm doing Jocelyn, there's suddenly like shoulder shimmying and things that I don't do myself personally, or maybe someone's got me doing. But yes, the walk is Jocelyn. It's also because of the shoes, because Jocelyn, everyone's costume was so true to character. So Jocelyn did not have expensive shoes. Jocelyn had a lot of plastic shoes. And sometimes by the end of the day, they didn't feel great. So sometimes the funny walk might have been about the shoes. I remember Payless Shoes went out of business when we were shooting season 6. And I was thrilled because I was like, we're gonna have to find shoes somewhere else, guys. So there you go.
Someone is asking if you can show the award that is behind you on the shelf.
Oh, that little rascal. Let me
Got someone has a good eye there.
This is that's the Sag Award. We got a Sag Award for a cast. I know they say this on the shows, it's incredibly heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like 14 pounds.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
That's really
cool. Pants on. I love. Maybe I should make him a tiny little pair of pants.
So this one is from Chantel. How did you get into the entertainment industry? Well, we covered that. And her career path is working in the entertainment industry. So any advice for her?
As I approach 50, my only advice would be is if this is what you want to do, just keep going. I was 42 when I got the role of Jocelyn, and I think part of the reason why some people make it is they just don't do something else. Mm-hmm. If you have to be a creative person, just keep being a creative person. Sometimes you have to have a day job to support that, and it's not easy. But if that's what you feel in your heart that you have to do, just keep going.
How about you? Did you have a plan B?
I did not. My mother really wanted a plan B. Really wanted it. Like for my 41st birthday, I'd done one season of Schitt's Creek. She bought me career testing as a gift for my birthday because she wanted me to do this thing that said, oh, she'd be a great nurse or she'd be like a great school teacher. She just wanted somebody to say I'd be good at something else. And it totally backfired because the top 10 things were like photographer, writer, painter. Like, God damn it. I'm like, sorry. I'm not going to make a great nurse. I don't like blood. I don't like the sight of blood. It's not going to be a thing. So yeah, I did not have a plan B.
Okay. So this is Mindy from Facebook. She says, does your role in Ginny and Georgia give you help and insight into your relationship with your own daughter?
My own daughter's 11. So we're not in the teen years yet. You know, I did find it insightful to just see how much a mother and daughter can love each other, but how, or a father and daughter, any parent and someone who goes into the teen years, that you can still struggle with your relationship. It's a difficult time for teens as they discover themselves and their own autonomy. And I thought it was a good preview of like, maybe some days my daughter's not going to like me, but it doesn't mean she doesn't love me. And I think that's like a great message to take from that show and from life. Mm-hmm. I'll let you know. Let's do another one of these in 3 years and I'll let you know how it's going.
It's great. Kathy writes, I love your character, especially bringing awareness with American Sign Language. I bet you've gotten a lot of feedback about that.
You know, there has been some, not a lot, but it was a really great experience in so many ways. One, because I did not have there was no one in my family or friend circles who was deaf. I learned so much about the deaf community, about their language, about their culture. They really have a beautiful culture. And I learned so much from Chris and from our interpreter on set and from my sign language instructor, who was so wonderful. She did coaching also for The Shape of Water. Like, she was amazing, Amanda. And it was a great experience. And I am already starting to try to warm up my hands and get ready for season 2. I lie in bed and sign the alphabet. That was the biggest challenge, is I'm a terrible speller. And every time you say someone's name, if they don't have a nickname, you get a nickname in sign language very early on in your family and your friends. But if you're just meeting someone, you have to spell their name. And I was like, you guys, I don't know how to spell. This is terrible. This is terrible. So I'm already doing the alphabet. I'm already lying in bed doing the alphabet before I fall asleep every night to get myself warmed up and ready to go. But it was really cool to learn about it. And I hope I, can rise to the challenge again this season with the same.
Sure you will. How do you learn lines in general? Is it just repetition or?
I learn better with audio. So I record, like when I have an audition, I'll record the entire scene and all the lines, and I'll listen to the lines over and over again. And then I'll record it with the gaps to fill in my lines to practice. It's the same. It's kind of like acting. It's a bit like stand-up and all the other creative arts, where it's a muscle. And if you're just coming off a show where you were working all the time, you kind of just slide right into it. But the minute you've been away from it for 2 or 3 months, you don't sleep for like a week before you start. Because you're like, what if I don't? All my anxiety dreams, I don't know my lines. Every single one. Everyone. And action. And me just, nope. I don't know.
I got nothing.
Got nothing. Anyone got sides? And then they hand me sides in the dream, but the printing's too small and I can't read the sides. It's terrible. It's just terrible. So
we have an email we got from Mary Price, she writes, your character and this show did so much for me, especially during the pandemic shutdown. I think she's talking about Schitt's Creek. It was my source of comedy and a great reminder of female strength in a character. Love you in both Schitt's Creek and Ginny and Georgia. You are a reminder that drama and humor sustains us. That's so nice.
Really? That's really nice.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much. That's really, really lovely. And that's very special.
I mean, really, you bring a lot of joy to people.
Thank you. I mean, I think as a person in comedy, that is your goal, but also just what this show is bigger than all of us, I think, and what it ended up meaning to people. And I hold that in my heart, and it's very special. It's very meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I did a talk show a couple of weeks ago, and people were saying, you're such a good person. And I said, I do have to clarify. I'm a terrible person. No, that is a character. And what you're seeing as Jocelyn or as Ellen is the creative collective of a group of people, of which I'm a part of it. Mm-hmm. But that's the beauty of storytelling. That's the beauty of movies and TV, is that you're able to create these people. And I love that people love Jocelyn. I love her too. I miss her. Mm-hmm. I don't miss the tops. I don't miss the blouses, but I miss her.
Kind of itchy.
A little polyester-y. The one that had 5 tiers was wild. She had a blue floral one that literally had like 5 layers of it. It was quite remarkable.
Oh, I have to ask you, was Roland's belly real?
No. So the first season, it was a pillow, because I guess when they shot the sizzle reel, Chris had a belly, and then he went and started running 5 miles a day or something. So by the time we were starting the show, he didn't have a belly anymore, and they wanted him to have one. So he had a pillow for the first season, and then they made him like a prosthetic belly, beer belly. And it was very funny. This season I was pregnant. Him and I would both be like strapping on these bellies, and just so hot in the summertime. They're very warm, these latex bellies. So we both have our plastic bellies on underneath.
Did you know any of them before you started the show?
I didn't.
Wow.
Didn't know any of them. Now I know all of them so well.
Lifelong friends now?
Yeah, lifelong friends.
Yeah. So what's next? I understand you just finished a movie, right?
I did a couple of movies this year, which was amazing, even though everything that's happening. Sets are very diligent about safety and have somehow managed to sort of pick up this year. So I did a Christmas movie in April that's coming on Netflix, which I'm really excited about. It's called Single All the Way. It's a fabulous gay rom-com, and I'm sort of the somewhat irritated sister of the lead, who's played by Michael Urie, who's amazing. I love him. And then I just finished an action movie called Crawl Space, which is through Paramount. So I think it's due to come out late at the end of the year. I'm not sure about how much theatrical release what cities it'll go to, but that was exciting too. A Christmas movie and an action movie.
An action movie? I mean, had you done one before?
Never. I only play nice neighbors. And this one I play a nice deputy. But it was exciting. I'd never been shot. I was very nervous about that. And you get a squib, which is like little explosive with like a blood pack under your shirt, and then there's the sound. But you don't need anybody to say bang, because the squib actually makes like quite a noise. And they set me up and then coached me, and they said, no matter what you do, when you hear the sound, don't look down, because then all the fake blood will go into your eyes. And so I just kept thinking, don't look down, no matter what happens. And then they said, are you ready? And I went, I guess so. And they went, we've only got 2 shirts, so good luck. So
Before we went live, you told us a story about laying on the ground. Tell
Well,
me.
yeah. So after I've been shot, I'm on the ground, as most people are post being shot. And I'm lying there injured. And I had to lie there for 2 days because there was all this other action that happened. So for 2 days, I just came in to lie on the ground. But where
And
we
you
were
get paid to
shooting,
lie on the ground, right?
yeah, where we were shooting was very woodsy. And I was in this gravel, this like big pieces of gravel. And every time they yell action, this massive ant would pop up and start crawling towards my face. And I knew I didn't want to ruin the actors' take off in the main frame. I was off in the distance. And so I just lie there desperately going, try to, and you could, I think he was literally like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, a little wind in my antenna. Like he was not afraid. And he was large. And he just kept coming for me. It was like he was a trained, he should be in the movies. It was like they said action. And then these little antennas would pop up and go, no, why? Why? Anyways, I survived the ant.
So what's your dream role? What would you love to do?
Well, I think I did one with Jocelyn. That was certainly pretty great. I don't know. I love smart, funny characters. They always have to have a sense of humor, even if it's something very serious. I love that. Like I love a serious movie with a character that kind of comes in and lightens it a little bit. I have something in development, which I can't talk about, but I'm hoping that will be the next thing. We'll see, because I do write. And so I'm busy at the keyboard trying to get something made at the moment. So.
No, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wouldn't do, like nudity or sex scenes or things like that?
The really funny part is no one ever asked me to do nudity. So I've never been. I did have one agent in my 20s who left me the most hilarious voicemail. I saved it for years until like you just couldn't save voicemails anymore, because it was him like being an LA agent going, great role for you. You're the wife of Bruce Willis. You're at the front of the movie, full nudity, you die in the bathtub. Call me. And I was like, what? And I think that was like 9 Blocks or something, that movie with Bruce Willis. Anyways, that's the only time anyone's ever asked to see me without clothes on.
Would you do it?
You know, I don't know. I think at this point I probably would, because I don't know if anyone would care. To be honest, I'm gonna be 50, so it's a bit like that Moira episode with Stevie and the nude photos, where it's like, if it was an amazing film and it was obviously art and it wasn't salacious and it was part of the story, I'd probably take my top off.
Why not?
Why not? One last glance before everything falls.
I can't believe you're gonna be 50. You look like you're 25.
Oh, it's the ring light. Everybody, I feel like post, like when we all leave our homes, we're all just gonna walk around with ring lights so no one's gonna recognize us. Really evens out the skin tone.
Okay, we have a couple more here.
Okay.
Where was Schitt's Creek filmed, and was most of the cast Canadian? I know the answer to that, but yeah.
It was filmed in, anything in studio was filmed in Toronto. So most of the shoot was in studio. So anything in the cafe, any interior except for the store that David and Patrick have, was all on sets. So all that stuff was shot in Pinewood Studios. And then we moved studios for another season, but that was shot in studio for most of the shoot. And then at the end of it, we would have 3.5, 4 weeks on location in a town called Goodwood. And Goodwood's like a little 4-corner town. Really lovely people. They were always very kind to us. There was a great bakery that had amazing butter tarts. And we'd always like ask the driver to stop and get butter tarts before the drive home. And that's where it was shot. What was the other part of the question?
Was most of the cast Canadian?
Most of the cast is Canadian. The only one that isn't is Chris Elliott. Everyone else is Canadian. Catherine, Eugene, many of the cast members live in Canada and the United States, but everybody except for Chris is Canadian.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that everyone knows what a family affair it was. So you have Dan, you have Eugene, and you have
Sarah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So Sarah is Twyla on the show, but she is Dan's sister in real life, as the kids say. IRL. And yeah, and Deb was always around, Eugene's wife, and Dan and Sarah's mom was not always around, but she would definitely come and visit. She's hilarious also, which you'd expect. It would be weird if she was definitely serious. She's quite wonderful. And yeah, it was a real family affair.
And so Alyssa wants to know, do you and the Schitt's Creek cast get together just for fun since the show has ended?
We get together when we can. We did get together in a very big way when the show ended. Dan rented a place in Italy and we all went to Italy, and it was amazing. It was such a surreal moment because he sent out the invite and it was like, Schitt's Creek does Tuscany. And then there was an address. I go, we're going for Italian food. And then I'm looking at the address going, I don't understand that address. That's different. That's not Toronto. That's where is that? And then I realized we were going to Italy. So a whole bunch of us went to Italy and had an amazing time. Dan went back there, I think, for Fashion Week, just a few weeks ago. And I think he actually went back to where we were, and we were all like, oh, it's the place in Tuscany. And we talk all the time, and we will never, I think, not be connected in some way. I think everybody on the show.
I think that's what I was meaning by the before and after moment. It's like such a special time in your life, right?
Yeah. And having all those experiences together and dressing up and going to, we went to the Sag Awards in 2020, the beginning of 2020. It was like February, and it was just wild. We were all just sitting at the table, like trying to stop our jaws from hitting the table because Brad Pitt's over there, and Annie and I were talking to Phoebe Bridger in the lineup for the bathroom, and just incredible things. So we had all those like experiences as a group,
So cool. And I also read for the Emmys that you were wearing like $500,000 worth of diamonds, right?
Yes.
Like all of a sudden you're on this great show and someone gives you all these diamonds to wear.
Yeah, I mean, you borrow them. Yeah. But it's a lot of pressure. So I had this incredible Canadian designer who designed my dress, and I went for some fittings while I was working in Toronto, and then went to LA to the company to get it styled. And they're like, and we'll pick some jewelry. I went, that would be cool. And they just kept putting on these, they're like layered tennis bracelets. I'm like, layered tennis bracelets sounds fun. And then you have to sign a thing on your way out that you are responsible for.
Oh, great.
All of this stuff. And I had to leave early the next morning. So I had to ask my friend who I was staying with. I said to her, how much house insurance do you have? Like, are you comfortable with me leaving a bunch of diamonds for someone to pick up later on? She's like, yeah, sure. Okay.
That's a good friend.
Yeah.
So Trisha from Facebook wants to know what your favorite TV show is to watch.
One.
Don't tell me you don't watch television.
I do. No, I definitely watch television. I watch a lot of true crime, and I watch a lot of dark, serialized murder stuff generally. But in terms of comedy, lately I just watched the first season of Ted Lasso and completely loved it. I rewatched Catastrophe, which is a great show. British show. The Great, that's an excellent show on Amazon. I think they're doing another season. I watch lots of TV. Those are some of my favorite comedies. And if I'm not watching that, I'm probably like watching, Broadchurch or one of those types of shows.
Did you watch Kaminsky Project?
I have not.
Oh, I think you'll love it.
Is that next on my, okay.
The writing's really terrific.
Okay.
All right, so here's another one. I have to say thank you for the laughs, as I just started watching Schitt's Creek during lockdown. My favorite line of all time is, "Oh, Moira."
It's up there with Ooh, David, the Oh Moiras. Oh dear. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I think a lot of people found the show in lockdown, and luckily there was 6 seasons to kind of keep you going for a little bit. Yeah.
And Naomi writes, who designed your Emmy dress and who is your favorite Canadian designer?
My Emmy dress is Ramona Caveja. She's Canadian, but works out of New York. I've worn her to a couple of different things. I also wore her to the Sag Awards. Anything sort of very dramatic and tooly is usually her, which I love. And favorite designer, I don't really travel in very fancy crowds, so I don't know if I could say. I love her, and her people are amazing, and if there's ever an award show, they'll always find something lovely for me. So I guess I would say Ramona, but I don't generally leave the house or dress up that much, so it takes a team. There's people who will help you when you have these red carpet things. There are people who will come and they'll do your makeup and your hair and your things, and they're blessed little angels, because I would have no idea what to do.
So Jennifer Rice says, thank you for sharing your talent and bringing so much joy.
Thanks, Jennifer, a fellow Jen. Thanks, buddy.
It's so special. I just think it's so wonderful. You have this gift and you share it with all of us.
Well, the Schitt's Creek fans in general are really lovely human beings. Also, there's I have yet to come across a real jerk who loves Schitt's Creek. There's something about the spirit of the show tends to bring out people who are really positive and really lovely too. So that's nice. Yeah.
What I loved about the show too is how they had to learn how to be a family, right? It's really some really beautiful moments in there, right?
Yeah.
And I also read, I think that Annie was basically ready to quit acting and she got the role of Alexis, right?
Yeah. Yeah. She also auditioned for Stevie first.
Wow.
What? It's kind of wild. Yeah, when we went to Italy, all of us at the time, Amy, who's Dan's friend, she was one who directed the documentary that's on Netflix about Schitt's Creek, and Amy was pulling up. She had everybody's auditions. It was so wild to just see yourself 6 years ago, and before everything.
God.
Yeah.
You guys must have been laughing so hard.
Yeah. Wild.
How was it this is from Tracy.
Okay.
How was it to film the last episode of Schitt's Creek knowing it was over? Oh.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was a hard day. It was a great lesson though, and in a lot of interviews I've said this, is that there is something beautiful to Dan knowing the story that he wanted to tell and how long that journey was and how long he wanted it to be. And, even my daughter, when she was, 9, said, but everybody loves it. Why are you guys not doing any more? And I said, because this was Dan's vision, and to tell more wouldn't feel authentic to him or authentic to what he was making for everybody to watch. And so it was really bittersweet, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for Dan for saying this was the show, and to carry it further in this format would be ingenuine.
Yeah.
You know, that's hard to walk away from. That's so hard.
Yeah.
So he really stands his creative ground, which I respect.
Yeah, I do too. So before we go, I want to talk about your charity.
Yes.
Tell us what charity you're supporting.
This is a charity that supports families who have been impacted in Canada. Recently, in the last 4 or 5 months in Canada, we have uncovered hundreds, we believe thousands of unmarked graves of children who are in residential schools in our country. It's incredibly heartbreaking. For a very large period of time in Canada's history, Native children were taken from their families and put in these residential schools, and were treated beyond terribly. And obviously we're now learning that some of them even died. And it's the ripple effect of the residential schools that they've had on Indigenous people and Indigenous communities is truly heartbreaking. So that's the charity that I'm donating to tonight. It supports Indigenous people and Indigenous families who have been affected by the residential schools, which I can't imagine. I try to think about somebody taking my daughter away from me and treating her inhumanely, and it's heartbreaking. So I know that, you know, I think in 1970, it's not that long ago, I think 1970 is when the last school closed, and it just continues on. That pain just continues on to either the children of people who are in those schools, or, you know, the grandchildren. And so that's why I picked that
That's
particular
wonderful.
charity. Yeah.
The name of the charity is the Indian Residential School Survivor Society.
Yes.
I believe that will be put in the chat box for everybody.
Yes.
Well, Jen, this has been so much fun.
It has.
I mean, honestly, I just thank you again for sharing your gifts, and from all the notes we're getting from everybody. It's like, you know, you're really special, and you've really brought a lot of joy to people. So,
well, thanks for inviting me. It was great to chat with you, and thank you for all your questions and lovely comments from the people joining in. That's really appreciated.
And good luck. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you. Thank you.
So a movie at Christmas time. When is and you don't know when the action film's coming out?
I don't know when Crawl Space is coming out, but Single All the Way will be out this Christmas on Netflix, and it'll be super fun. Also, like, an amazing cast. So it'll be a fun one. And Crawl Space, maybe November, December. Just look for Crawl Space. The lead of Crawl Space is Henry Thomas.
Great.
You may know from E.T.
Yeah.
He's now same age as me. We're grown-ups now.
I know. And Ginny in Georgia?
And Ginny in Georgia, we start shooting this winter. I'm not sure, but it'll be out sometime in 2022.
Okay. And how about any social media handles? Where can people follow you?
I am on Frenifer, because I'm Jennifer and I'm your friend. So I'm Frenifer on the Insta, and JR 2.0 on Twitter.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Have a great evening.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and please come back again for another Girls Night Live, and stay safe, everyone. Bye.